Hi, continuing on our Wi-Fi 7 MLO series, I'd like to talk about some peak numbers that we are likely to see as a part of various marketing campaigns, and that could lead to a trend which might kind of take Wi-Fi to a level, at least in some perception matters. My name is Shrikant, and I'm with NanoCell Networks. So if I look at the 11BE max phi rates, which are possible according to the standard, it comes out to a number close to 46 gigabit per second. And that's an improvement over what 11AX could do, which was close to about 9.6 gigabits per second. And the improvements came from the higher bandwidth potential of 320 megahertz, the higher space times or spatial stream potential of 16SS, and the higher MCS potential of 4K QAM. Of course, you might argue whether all of these are really possible. Let's put that aside for a moment and just calculate on some peak numbers, at least on the standards. So we are looking at peak rates of about 46 gigabits per second, achievable potentially in the 6 gigahertz spectrum, because that's where you can get the 320 megahertz channels happening. And with that, you would possibly see some TCP UDP throughputs, possibly somewhere close to some 30 or somewhere around that range gigabit per second. Okay. Of course, with UDP numbers being higher than TCP. However, that's really not the end of the story because this is a single link peak rate. What we are really interested in is some potential peak number improvement possibilities with MLO. And as we know, MLO allows us to aggregate the multiple links. And as a very important example, we might see links on 2.4, 5, and 6 being aggregated between a potential APMLD and non-APMLD. However, this is not the only context. You might have another AP-like entity at the other end, typically in some of our easy mesh kind of links. So I want you to just keep that thought in mind while as users, we might be carrying one of these devices, but remember that Wi-Fi is also now used in the backhaul in many retail settings. And so that's also an important link. So the max phi rate that we calculated potentially from the standard was 46 here, and extrapolating that from 32 or 320 megahertz rather, and 5 gigahertz 160, we could have 23. And we can, say there is some throughput here, definitely less than maybe 1 gigabit per second. So we are looking at a peak phi rate in an MLO of close to 70 gigabits per second. Again, not to worry about the exact number. This is just more of a representation. So we could see some UDP numbers approaching 50 gigabit per second, right? UDP TCP numbers possibly just lower than that or somewhere close to that. All that depends on what numbers we will see in practice with aggregation thrown in. Okay. Now, these numbers, as we know, come because of the 16 SS possibilities that we have used in the calculations here, which is very unrealistic. And the only case we could even think of it getting closer to, say, 16 SS, maybe an 8 SS or 4 SS, could be the easy mesh kind of backhaul. Okay. So even if it is not 50 gig with the 16 spatial stream, but some 4SS or an 8SS numbers could help you get up to maybe something like a 25 gig with 8SS. So I would rule out this possibility from somebody who wants to get a really high number on their mesh system. Okay. So that's one aspect of the peak numbers that you might see your AP with 4SS or 8SS, and on the other side another AP, and they're using the mesh links, and those go at those kinds of rates. In practice, many of our clients are usually capped at 2Ss for various reasons of cost, complexity, etc. What are some numbers which we might be broaching upon in the Wi-Fi 7 era? That could be something that we can think about. So from 16SS to 8SS is, an eightfold decrease. So we are looking at something of the order of 5.5, but let me just put it 5 gigabit per second, something of the order of some 3 gigabit per second, including the 2.4. So we are getting very close with the 5s and 3s with the 2Ss to somewhere close to a 10 gig phi rate. Okay. And with a 10 gig phi rate, we are now looking at TCP UDP throughputs, which are, getting close to, 6 to 8 gigabit per second, even with our two spatial stream device. Okay. And with a little bit of a push in at least some devices, maybe some high-end laptops or in some desktops or TVs to 4SS, that number can easily cross up to 10 gigabit per second in the TCP UDP sense. So I think that's the number that we will see breached with some devices if people think that that's an important peak number to have in the Wi-Fi 7 era. Okay, so we can definitely see 2SS somewhere on that range, maybe 5 gigabit per second breach might happen. And in some devices which might go the 4SS route, like high-end laptops, monitors, big monitors, etc., we are seeing 10 gigabit per second. And don't forget that the easy mesh backhaul might even go up to big numbers as high as 25 gig. Okay, so we are truly in the era of extreme high throughput possibilities, which is one of the goals for Wi-Fi 7. And we should see interesting numbers being thrown about in the next several years as we mature on the Wi-Fi 7 front. Thank you. For more information, please take a look at our website. We also offer courses through Wi-Fi Now Academy. Thanks once again.